Hello everyone, Brad Johnson here, and in this I'm going to be doing some conscious matrix communication flow, and we're basically going to be talking about a certain subject relating to transcending knowledge. And that is basically going to transcend it into the idea of understanding. So when we're looking at the aspect of knowledge, we're looking at the symbolism of a vast ocean. Knowledge will always be there. There will always be knowing. There will always be thought. There will always be expression. There will always be experience. It's not us to feel that we have to take a straw and suck up that entire ocean, a feeling that that entire ocean is something that we need to bring directly into us. And so this is where the idea of knowledge itself becomes overrated. It's not so much that you are pursuing your path on earth here in this life by feeling that all of this needs to be completely encompassed within you. Now, certainly on many different levels of beings, of consciousness, that we are the entirety of the ocean. But let's look into the conscious self. Let's look into the purity of the self altogether. That the self represents the aspect of one developing their own awareness to understand their connection to all. So when we're looking at self, we're looking at the idea of an individuality, of the idea of an I am presence. So everything that would represent the I am all goes back to the self. So placing any particular type of affirmation through the idea of I am can simply represent the idea of how we understand ourselves. But we're looking more so into the idea about how we can take just what we feel is the understanding of ourselves, so that we do not need to spend thousands plus thousands of lifetimes thinking that we need to gulp up this entire ocean. It has all come down to the point of understanding. That we're not looking to become the entire ocean of knowledge, we're only looking to navigate the ocean of knowledge by having understanding, by having wisdom. This can also be referred to as rainbow wisdom, that when you're moving into rainbow wisdom, you're understanding the entire spectrum of that which represents yourself. Those particular forms of colors contained within the rainbow spectrum are of a specific hue, a certain form of frequency harmonic color that allows you to chart this path. And that this allows you to move into the idea of complete and total stillness, of complete and total flow, of being within a void. So if we are going to look at the idea of something that we thought may take thousands of lifetimes to grasp, really all we're doing is taking everything that represents knowledge, which will represent the K, and digest it into understanding. In order to do that, we need to see a geometry such as this. So very similar to the layers of an onion. And that everything that represents the core of our being will always root itself through these particular tethers, through these roots themselves, through the different octave levels representing our beingness. And so our beingness is portrayed in regards to the core of how we see ourselves. That we are looking into the surface of feeling that I'm not financially stable, I'm having relationship issues, I'm not able to travel, I'm not doing the type of career of my dreams, etc., etc., etc. And it all comes together in regards to the surface about what the core is attempting to understand about itself by having all of these particular forms of other chords that have nothing to do with us whatsoever. So So we're looking at all of these particular strands of cords, of tethers, that have helped us to look into different areas of beingness that are not calibrative with our theme. Theme truly is what is meant to be understood in our life. We're looking to have understanding in the basis of our theme. So if I feel that I am dirt poor and that I just deserve to be dirt poor, well, that's a theme that we're exploring. We know that there's an incompatibility there, but we're still exploring that idea. What can be done to take that knowledge of feeling poor? Because even to be poor is knowledge itself. The whole idea of being able in bad relationships, I'm looking at that form of polarity. Okay? Relationships that have been unsettling, relationships that have been very, very chaotic. Well, that's knowledge too. And you can list anything else you want to down here. Financial problems, foreclosure on your house, whatever it may be. All of these are just aspects of knowledge. And these are all just rooting back into the core of our being. Because now we are experiencing a tapestry. We're exploring a spectrum, a contrast through everything that exists within reality. So what can we do to take all of this knowing and place it into understanding? It simply represents the idea of going within yourself to be within that void. And in this void, everything that represents a state of disharmony, a state of conflict, a state of peril, a state of chaos, everything is showing itself within the void. And that's the idea. It's just while you're watching this video, being able to close your eyes right now and go into the void. And find out exactly what comes up. Because if you feel that you are completely tranquil, you'll have no problem with staying within the void of emptiness. So that won't be a problem for you. But if you feel that you go into the void right now, and all of a sudden you start getting these thought bombardments. I'm not good enough to do this. Oh, my finances are horrible. This relationship is terrible. I can't stand my career. I don't like my 9-to-5 job. I feel like a slave. People don't understand me. I feel abandoned, etc., etc. All of this is giving you the direct representation about what your void is sharing with you as a reflective mirror. So, your void becomes filled with knowledge. It becomes filled with knowingness. And knowingness, again, is overrated. So whenever we're attempting to fill ourselves with knowing, as much as there can be, yes, positive knowing, there certainly can be, but there can also be negative connotations relating to knowing. Anything that really represents positive, negative polarity. So knowing has multiple functions. It serves double duty. It has the idea of polarization. So anytime you go into your void, this is the best way to check in. You just imagine emptiness. You imagine nothingness. And as you're attempting to imagine nothingness within your void, you discover these reflective mirrors in regards to inadequacies, in regards to certain forms of conflicts, into something that discords you into the idea of an impairment of thought, an impairment of a situation that you were holding on to that does not reflect who you naturally are at the core of your being. So even though we have all of these roots, all of these tethers coming into the core of our being, the core of our being really is just being enriched, because now it's looking at the tapestry of all of life. So again, all we're doing is reflecting within the void to discover what can be transcended. What is it that allows us to be within the void? Complete and total emptiness. And when you are in the void, and when you are empty, I've been doing this very recently, it is more powerful than anything you can visualize. It is more powerful than anything you can hear, anything that you can express, anything that represents thought. Emptiness is the true state. That's the key. You're moving into emptiness because this is the whole form, or rather formlessness, of you becoming a being. It's all about beingness. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of existing. Any time that we develop a thought, any time that we develop an action, any time that we develop an expression, an experience, we are processing. Processing requires energy. Knowledge, knowing, is all about the idea of pursuance. Passion. exploring. Put any other particular type of form in there. But it all represents a state of process. And this is why that we as human beings are draining ourselves like crazy. Because if there is a problem, if we have a problem in our life, then we feel we have to jump right to solution, which requires process. And for a time, this will be helpful, because this will certainly help you when you're going within the void to look at reflections, because that process can certainly assist you in transcending those mirrors and looking to those mirrors to bring them into clarity. Process can certainly be a very, very positive thing in that way. It addresses the idea of solution. That's all part of it. But when we already know that if we can look in the void, if we are contained in the void right now and that all we truly see is emptiness, is there a further need for process? No. Because this is what exhausts us. Process takes energy. So again, as we're functioning relating to the idea of the positive and the negative, yes, they truly do counterbalance each other. And here's the 0 point. Here's neutrality. Here's the void. Right? We're always looking into the idea of different shifts. We're getting into different waves. Certainly happens to me, bouncing up and down quite often. And then you just really start to feel that impulse to be empty. And that's what makes your journey so much more collective. When you are able to stay within the void for a great duration of time, you no longer become hungry, you no longer become sleepy, your body no longer becomes exhausted. Why is that? When we look into the idea of emptiness, I'm going to draw a little stick man here. Our energy, in regards to our body, is able to cycle itself in harmony, because there is no demand in regards to process. So if we have all these dots in the field here that represent thought form, those thought forms are processes. So energy is required in order to process those thought forms, whether it be conscious awareness, whether it be aspects coming from the subconscious into your consciousness, etc. Whatever it may be. When you have thought forms contained within your field, whether you are consciously aware of it or subconsciously aware of it, nonetheless they are there. When you go into the void, all of these thought forms are now no longer present. The mirrors that have been shining back at you are now starting to turn inwards. And now all you are is a part of a hall of mirror void, where all you see is just the reflection of reflection. That's it. This is what's known as the law of foreverness. Right? The law of foreverness is, in that sense, all part of a transition past the idea of one. You come into forever. You come into forever absent reflection. And so everything truly is the idea of stillness. There is nothing to reflect, because you simply do not see yourself as mass. You do not see yourself as form. You do not see yourself as expression. You see yourself beyond the one thought, and now you're foreverness. So now the void itself represents a cocoon of complete and total stillness now and forever. That's it, the whole aspect of that. So you certainly are one, but it's not so much of thinking that one needs to be a form of diversion, or a feeling of splitting, or a feeling of dualism, or a feeling that there needs to be an identity. As long as we still look at the aspect of one, we're still looking at the aspect of identity, regardless if it's one or all. So again, as we look at the one or the all, that is the process of the matrix. The matrix is all about the idea of the one, that then splits itself together into infinite degrees of fragments that begin to express itself as it knows itself. When you go back into the void and you feel that these particular forms here are absent, now you're in emptiness. Now you're in that complete void where stillness is now able to assert itself, so to speak. Not really assert itself, but basically being able to present itself. Bring yourself into full foreverness presence. Because again, there is no form. So going back to the knowingness of the understanding, this all just comes back that when understanding is done, we have simply processed knowing. We process knowing by making it meaningless. So when you are taking knowing, because to know is to have meaning of something, is to be able to assign something, is be able to understand terms, to understand definitions, to understand concepts, to understand perceptions, right? That's all part of the knowingness grid. So basically all we're doing is, if we're looking at the knowingness grid right here, is we're passing it through a filter to where it completely just becomes raw energy. It has no meaning, it has no definition, it has no term. And that's all you're doing. Enter the void. Become completely empty. Let yourself move into that particular feeling. What is it that I feel I would need to do in order for all of these thoughts of conflict to come together? Love them. Love is the very process that transforms knowing into understanding. It's about love. It's about forgiveness. That's the key. Forgiveness is the catalyst to creating love in all aspects and all harmony. Yeah, absolutely. I'm still going through this as well too. One phase at a time, one thought at a time, etc. We all are. And it's all great, because it's not about the idea of a race, of a person coming onto this video and saying, oh, look what I was able to do, and you guys are still behind. That's nothing to do with anything. The whole key here is that we're all looking at the idea of how brilliant knowingness is. It really is brilliant. It's a wonderful feeling to know a lot, but you're never going to stop learning. You're never going to stop being able to develop concept. You're never going to stop developing prisms that represent the idea of redirections of light. But the pure light, the pure white light, you could refer to it, the pure spirit, that which is oneness, that oneness light, so to speak, is the true tapestry, is the true connection, is the purity in regards to all essence that comes back to the original one thought, that comes back to the law of one, right? So we move into the law of one, and then when we move into the void, where we no longer cast a reflection, we are in the law of foreverness, and that's the key. So, what is it that we need to do? Again, look into everything that you feel holds deep meaning, and laugh at it. That's really the key. If you can laugh at everything you think you know, then you know that that particular form of knowingness is no longer solid. It's now malleable. It only serves you to a particular point. Is that this will be the path. It can be seen as a waveform, or it could be seen as a particle moving at infinite speeds. But the whole idea here is that if we have this particular path, it's always going to have hills, it's always going to have valleys, it's always going to be interchangeable. Knowledge is relative, it's never finite, it's never fixated to the point, or I should say not finite, but it's never absolute, it's never solid to that point, at least it's never meant to be. Right? It's never meant to be a solid block. As stated before, in different Adronis channelings, it's all about the idea that knowledge is like a stream, and that you are like a rock, where you can see yourself as a crystal. And knowledge is just passing through you like a stream to assist in the calibration of the theme that you are exploring, to bringing yourself into a state of understanding, to bringing yourself into true wisdom, into rainbow wisdom, which represents the spectrum of the particular hues of light contained within the rainbow spectrum that allow you to become beingness, because now you have digested the process of knowing to where you know it is meaningless. And now you're moving into the formlessness of your own being. And that's the whole idea. When you love, when you listen, you are able to process knowing, you are able to take it into understanding, and no longer is there a pursuance. No longer is there a need for exploration to that which you already hold as meaninglessness. So, does that mean that our life's going to be completely boring? No, because we're always going to be going through challenges. But what this is doing is helping you to look inside the void, to finding out what you're reflecting in that light of what is still dwelling in your mind. Go inside your void. Find out what your void is reflecting to you right now as the mirrors of your thoughts, of your ambitions, of your expressions. Do these particular forms serve you? No. Well, what's going on with me? Look into the void. What is the void telling you right now? It's telling me I should probably lighten up on people a little bit more, that I need to really stop taking myself so overly serious. Or maybe I feel that I need to ground myself because I feel I've been floating and I haven't been able to bring myself into that grounded state. Fantastic. Maybe it's still feeling that I'm still not worthy to attract all the money that I want. And, you know, representing the idea of, well, what is it about? Is it about financial wanting, or is it about financial being? And that's the whole key as well. Looking into yourself, or whatever you feel is a balance point, because the void will refer back to you. It will share with you the aspects to the inceptions of these thoughts. It will share that with you. See the void, again, as the core of your own being, because that's all the void is. It's the core of yourself. And when you see yourself empty, the core itself becomes empty. And now, as it becomes empty, all of these roots must follow. They must all follow in kind, in regards to feeling completely stilled in bliss, in beingness, in foreverness. That is the understanding. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you do have any questions representing everything that has been talked about, please feel free to drop me an email, info@consciousmatrix.com. Feel free to check out consciousmatrix.com. Again, a lot of sessions, products, videos, free meditations, free MP3s available on the website as well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Namaste. May it be well with you. Enter the void. Namaste.